Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. So today I'm doing a quick video on, just some hot thoughts that I was having. But this video is going to be about the transporter, Star Trek's transporter. And from the thumbnail of the video, you guys should kind of know what I'm going to be talking about. Maybe some aspects of the transporter that you guys probably didn't think about, some lines that you guys probably didn't think would lead to various things when using a transporter. So, the most OP device across all of science fiction, not just Star Trek, but all science fiction as a whole, right? It's not it's not gravity bombs or warp bombs or black hole weapons and none of that kind of stuff. Nah. The most OP device in all of sci-fi, from my perspective, is Star Trek's transporter. All right. Now I'm finna tell you why I think this. In Star Trek, first of all, there are two distinct types of transporters in Star Trek used in Starfleet. The one that everybody's familiar with, and the one that was in this episode right here, which I think the writers of the Next Generation and of that episode in particular is trying to forget about, because that was a different kind of transporter right there. That was a transporter just specifically for that episode, because it didn't behave in the same rules and ways that a normal Trek transporter would work. And anybody who's seen that episode, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. But let's talk about just some of the uses that type 0.76 civilization would use that type of technology for. So let's go into basically what the transporter does. Everybody know that the transporter is a matter energy to matter uh, manipulator. All right. So basically, what it does is it locks onto and it scans and locks onto material, and it basically says, all right, this is where all the molecules, atoms, everything that's in this item that I've scanned, this is all of the material that makes it up, in all its ratios, all its positions, and how its position related to each other, all of that kind of stuff. It stores it, turns it into an energy signal, right? And then redeposits and reconstitutes that exact um, structure at another location. Now, in essence, it breaks something down into energy and rematerializes it in its original form. Now, there's been some videos about the ethics of transporters, whether or not it destroys the original material, which I'm not really going to get into, because we know that matter and energy can't be created or destroyed. All right, so we're not even going to get into that. But what I am going to get into is just several categories of uses that, like I said, type 0.76 civilization will utilize this for, and why it's so OP. So let's talk about basically one of the things that we all know about the transporter. What we know about the transporter is that if a subject beams down to a planet and they pick up a virus or some type of unknown bacteria or whatever, something like that, something that is not something that was not part of the original pattern beamed down to wherever, the computer is able to filter out that material from the original. Now, let's just talk about how powerful that is all by itself. All right. So that, like I said, the transporter knows what it beams down, and if something deviates from what it beams down, right, it can alter that back to its state originally. Okay. So if a person beams down to a planet and they lose an arm or a leg, or they become damaged, they get ill, all right, something physically happens to them that changes, they get a splinter, anything, something that physically is different than the pattern that beamed down, right? That means that the instant heal is simply to transport them back up to the planet. I mean, back up through the system, right? Because the computer will notice that, hey, this is missing this certain amount of material. We need to put this material back. Now, I know one of the things that a lot of people is going to say is that, well, the computer can't just make matter, right? Because that's why the holodeck, things that are made on the holodeck can't exist outside the holodeck, right? But I offer a different perspective. What about the cargo replicators or the part replicators? How do they work? How do the food replicators work? They take a pattern, they take energy stored within the system, and they create food for the people to consume. We don't need hollow emitters stationed around 10 Ford or in people's quarters while they eat the food, and then people are still starved because they know hollow emitters emitting holographic food in their stomach. So that is real food. All right, that is real synthahol and stuff like that. That is real parts that they've replicated in the cargo bays or in replication systems. All right, so these are real parts created from just energy. That being said, the computer, the transporter should be able to do the same thing if you're missing the arm, all right, now, or leg, or missing blood. So that's one thing. The second thing is this: we also know for a fact that if you get old in Star Trek, right? You get old, you get elderly and stuff like that. You become handicapped, debilitated, whatever. We already know for a fact that they can use prior DNA to reconstitute your body back at a younger age. They did the same thing with Dr. Pulaski. So in other words, we could use the transporter for immortality. But it was one thing that was said to me when having this conversation, and that was, okay, well, when they did stuff like that, the person memory of everything prior to that pattern, everything after that pattern was scanned is lost. All right, if that's the case, then why not the pattern that has buffered out inconsistencies or additions to you on a virus level or bacterial level? Your pattern is still changed. What about when Dr. Pulaski came back using a hair follicle that Data had found in her quarters? She came back remembering everything that happened. Okay, so those are inconsistencies. Now, the thing that I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that what about looking at it from I wouldn't say a medical standpoint, but what about looking at it from, say, the Vidian standpoint? We already know that the Vidians can transport body organs away from people, all right? We also know that you can do the same thing because the doctor from Voyager has done it. You can do the same thing with Starfleet transporters. They are specific enough to beam out or in different items from a subject. That being said, what's to stop people from just beaming out people's hearts or brains from their enemies, and then once that enemy has obviously passed, beaming that particular material that you remove back? Nobody would ever know the difference. You know what I mean? Not even that. If the transporters can turn matter into energy, they can, in essence, beam people, right, into their batteries, right? Do you know how much energy that would produce for a starship of something like that? They can actually transport people into as power sources, you know what I mean? Or into walls, or into space, or into down in the bottom of the ocean in Mariana Trench, you know what I mean? They could use transporters for robbing pretty much anything. It wouldn't be anything anybody could do if they didn't have any type of shielding specifically designed for that. Can you imagine the technology of a transporter being made today? They would probably kill, now you know, probably, they would kill whatever person invented that, and they would bury that technology. Not only for the simple fact that it would put every type of transport business out of service, UPS, FedEx, anything that got to do with shipping crates and all that boating and it flying, that whole system would instantly be devastated. Do you know, like, that the transporter is so overpowered. Like, everything involved in that. Like, let's just talk about stasis. We've seen the transporter be used for, all right, you got an ailment that's not being able to be fixed right now. We're going to put you in a transporter and put you in a buffer for almost as long as we want to if we've set the system up that way. All right. So that's basically immortality, on that tip. All right. It's like, and if you wanted to think about using a transporter, the transporter from the episode that I had just mentioned at the beginning, right, with Barkley, if a person is conscious in a transporter field, right, that could be a form of torture. That could be a form of jail. Like, it's just so much. The transporter from Star Trek is an OP device. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that they don't use the transporter for in Star Trek, because in Star Trek they have moved beyond such primitive thoughts. All right. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean? For a type 0.76, if that technology was available today, think about it. If that technology was available today, one day somebody woke up and they found that somebody made viable transporter technology and they just put it on the internet. That would be the most outlawed technology that ever existed. That would be the most. They could beam weapons they could beam bombs and any type of destructive device, people, teams, battalions, into wherever they wanted to instantly. They could beam all your offensive and defensive structures, everything, beam it away and make themselves more powerful by using it as their energy. Like, anyway, what do you guys think of the transporter? Do you guys think the transporter is probably one of the most deadly, beneficial, scary, horrific, fantastic, wonderful devices ever devised in science fiction? If you guys know any runner-ups, put it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Please subscribe to the video. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And as always, peace, recycle, and say the wells. You guys be cool.